What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. We're taking a look at the Washington football team, starting at the quarterback position like we do every single time. Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in from the Dolphins, savvy old vet, bit of a gunslinger. It's an interesting pickup for them. It looks like they're going to stay with what they got. Taylor Heineke, they re-signed. Kyle Allen is still there. I feel like they're going to stick with what they got, although I don't know if I love it. I've thrown around Gardner Minshew as a name for this team many times. I think he could be the present and future for the Washington football team. I'm not sure what that would cost in a trade. I'm not sure if Jacksonville's even, wants to move on from him whatsoever. Super cheap in a rookie contract, super late round pick. He's cheap, very, very cheap, and a very quality backup. So do you trade him? I mean, I guess if they offered him like a second round pick, there's no way they say no to that, in my opinion. But is that something that you want to give up as a franchise, the Washington football team? Do you believe in Gardner Minshew enough that he's a second round pick? Maybe. I mean, for me, I would absolutely trade a third round pick for Gardner Minshew if that got it done. Third and a sixth if I had to, something like that. Anyways, I've thrown that name out there many times, and I think that would be a great fit. So, if that happens, then you heard it here first, I guess. I'm not sure if Heineke or Allen become the backup. That'll be an interesting battle in the preseason. I think Fitzpatrick's going to be your starter. Do they carry three quarterbacks? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But either way, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be your guy this year, at least, heading into the season. Will he be replaced at some point throughout the season? I don't know. And I'm not too concerned about it, to be honest with you. They won this division with, 4 different quarterbacks playing meaningful games for this team. So we'll see. Move to the running back position. Antonio Gibson is the guy now. Coming into the year last year, I wasn't sure if he was going to be, playing a lot of wide receiver a little bit, in the slot type of a thing, playing exclusively running back. I think we got our answer, and he's going to be their primary running back. The number one runner on this team. I'm not sure if Peyton Barber gets as many reps and as many carries as he did last year. I really don't think he should. I've always been a big Peyton Barber supporter, but averaging 2.7 yards per carry when even JD McKissick averages 4.3, 4.7 for Antonio Gibson. I mean, I don't want to sound rude or anything, but those are kind of wasted carries, if you ask me. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. You can't average under 3 yards per carry in the NFL and expect to, keep getting a chance to run the ball. I just don't think it makes sense. So we'll see what happens there if he even realistically makes the team. Jared Patterson comes in. Lamar Miller comes in, who's coming off of torn ACL late in his kind of career. That's going to be tough for him to come back from. But realistically, I think it goes Antonio Gibson, JD McKissick in the running game. JD McKissick is the number one option in the passing game out of the backfield, and he lines up in the slot a fair amount, catches a ton of passes. And then Jared Patterson, I think, is number 3 on this team. And then we'll see what happens with the fourth RB on the depth chart type of thing. But I think it goes in that order. And I don't think you can give Peyton Barber that many carries, as many as he did last year type of thing. Move over to tight end. They got a very good one who kind of came out of nowhere a little bit. I mean, he's a former quarterback, Logan Thomas, big body guy. Looked great last year, should continue to play well. He was a bit of a late bloomer. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Tamarick Hemingway, blocker, depth guy. John Bates, 4th round pick, comes in. I think he's a little undersized from what I recall out of Boise State, again, from what I recall. Deion Yelder, Ricky Seals-Jones, Tyrone Swoops. We'll see what the, camp battle brings. Like, that's a camp battle right there for the number 3 running back, number 2, 3 tight end, backup quarterback. Should be an interesting competition. And then we'll move to wide receiver, where there's going to be some more interesting competition in the preseason. Terry McLaurin's the guy. Probably doesn't even play in preseason. He shouldn't. I wouldn't. He's the number 1 wide receiver in this team, and it's not really close, only because Curtis Samuel does different things. I really, really like Curtis Samuel a lot, but they're different receivers. So realistically, you could not play Terry McLaurin or Curtis Samuel pretty much all preseason and work with the guys that you have, because they actually have a fair amount of depth. They really, really do. I really like what they have as far as receivers are concerned. A guy that's not getting talked about whatsoever is Kelvin Harmon. I think tore an ACL last year. He had a rookie season of, I think it was like 30-something catches, 300 to 350 to 400 yards, something like that. I don't know if he had any touchdowns, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, maybe none. I can't remember exactly, but no one's really talking about him. He was a back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver out of North Carolina State. 2 seasons in a row, 1,000 yards, 6th-round pick. That's kind of late for a back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver out of a school like that. I get it, I suppose, but he's a solid guy that could come back and definitely contribute. OurLads has him penciled in as a starter. I don't particularly think that he starts, but he's a good quality depth guy, and he's going to have a shot. Preseason is going to play a big role with these spots on this team, except for Samuel and Terry McLaurin. Diami Brown, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiver out of North Carolina. So North Carolina State. He's a speed demon. He might be the outside receiver, the outside starter, along with Terry McLaurin. He's going to open up the field for the underneath stuff for Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, him and Scary Terry. Like, there's a lot of speed here, a lot of speed on this team, and in the wide receivers especially. Antonio Gandy-Golden didn't really get going in his rookie year, 4th-round pick last year, big body guy. He could be a good depth receiver. I don't foresee him as being, a starter on this team probably ever, but quality guy to have. Cam Sims looked good in certain routes. I'm not going to say that he's starting caliber either, but between McLaurin, Samuel, Harmon, and Brown, I think you have your starting wide receivers. Adam Humphrey comes in as well. He's a quality veteran guy. Steven Sims is a lightning in a bottle guy as well. Probably becomes their primary punt and kick returner, I would imagine. Isaiah Wright's still there. Dax Milne, Zach Wilson's number 1 receiver out of BYU, 7th-round pick, pretty late. Wasn't Mr. Irrelevant, but either way, he was pretty super late. I don't even know if he makes the team either. But either way, they got lots of weapons here. Lots of weapons. Let's take a quick peek at the offensive line. They're bringing Charles Leno, who was cut by the Bears recently. Bring him into play, probably left tackle. Cornelius Lucas, Sadiq Charles, Samuel Cosme. All those guys are going to have a shot to probably start and be the swing tackle type of guys. Maybe you kick one inside, but Eric Flowers and Brandon Sheriff are all right there. So who knows? They do have some depth is kind of what I'm getting at, though. Wes Schweitzer's there. Keith Ishmael's there. They got some guys that can play, and they should be an overall better unit than they were last year. Very common, problem with all of these NFC East teams, the Cowboys, Giants, Eagles. Obviously, the football team is the quarterbacks contributed to a lot of sacks. The NFC East teams all had way too many sacks. This football team was the 2nd worst in the league, 50 sacks. But yes, much again, like all the other teams in the NFC East, quarterback play contributed to a lot of those sacks. So, and I think all of the teams should probably be better this year. I mean, realistically, they kind of have to be. They're all very, very, very bad. Eagles football team, Giants were bottom 3. Realistically, they're all bottom 5, every team in the NFC East. So they should all improve. And realistically, the football team, you know, that's who we're talking about here, has done everything they can to improve. So they should. They likely will, and they should. So there you go. This offense has a lot of firepower, actually. There's a fair amount of firepower, and you know, they should be able to compete at least in some shootout games, which they weren't able to do last year. You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not afraid to throw the ball. He's not afraid to throw an interception. So it should be an interesting, change on offense for this team. It should be interesting with the speed that they added in Diami Brown. It's interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how they run it. And does Antonio Gibson become a 1,000-yard rusher? Maybe. Do they have 2 1,000-yard receivers on this team? Maybe. We'll see. It should be interesting to see. We'll move over to the defensive side of the ball. Jack Del Rio's defense, very, very, very good unit here. Top 3 probably, in my opinion, in the league. I really like everything that they have going on. They're very young, very skilled. They do have some depth. They do have some depth. They do have some veterans. They've got it all to be a top 3 defense in the NFL this year. We'll start at the line. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young is absolutely scary for any team that plays against the football team this year. That's a scary, scary lineup. Even Tim Settle had 5 sacks last year. Matt Adonis is still there. William Bradley King and Shaka Toney could be absolute steals as 7th round picks this year, much like they got an absolute steal in Cameron Curl last year. I don't think anyone, thought he was going to be as good as he was. 7th round pick. Those 2 guys could be the Cameron Curl, of this team and of this defense and of this draft, realistically. So lots of depth. Man, they can get after the quarterback. You better believe it. I think they take a step forward in that regard. I wouldn't be shocked one bit if the Washington football team leads the league in sacks this year. We'll move back towards the secondary. Linebackers are the weakness of this defense. It's not a horrible weakness, but it is the weakness of this defense. Jamin Davis comes in, who I absolutely really loved in this draft. I don't know if I had him going in the first round, but I wanted to find someone to take him. I don't know if I had him or not. I can't remember, but the Washington football team took him in the first round, and I think it might have been a bit of a reach, a little bit, I suppose, but I don't think, realistically for this team, it is not a reach one bit. It makes absolute tons of sense for this team, and I think he's going to be great for this defense, and I think he's going to be, the defensive play caller, defensive leader, one of them, for the next, however many years. I think that was a great pick. Cole Holcomb, 5th round pick in 2019. He's okay. John Bostic is a good quality veteran to have. He's okay. David Mayo comes in. He's fine. They got some pieces here that Kaleki Hudson, 5th round pick last year. They got some guys that can chip in. But realistically, linebacker is the weakness of this defense. I'm not super concerned about that, especially because they're super strong up the middle with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. If they were weak there, then they might be susceptible to the run, but I'm not that concerned about it, especially with, we'll move to safety, I guess, especially with Cameron Curl there, who was a very pleasant surprise for the football team last year. 7th round pick. He had, 88 total tackles, I believe. 88 total tackles, 2 sacks. 5 tackle for loss, 4 pass defended, 3 interceptions, a touchdown. Dude can play. Dude can absolutely play. So that was a steal in the 7th round. Landon Collins is still there, still kind of underrated. As far as depth is concerned at safety, that's kind of an issue, but with those 2 guys, as long as they're playing the majority of the downs and there's no injuries or anything, there's no concern there. So they should be fine. William Jackson III comes in. I'm a Bengals fan. You got a good player there. Former 1st round pick. Kendall Fuller's still there after his first season last year. He's fantastic. Jimmy Moreland can still play, absolutely. Greg Stroman can play. Benjamin St. Juste, Canadian, he can play. He needs a little bit of seasoning though. He actually does, which is fine because, they got time. They got time for him. So that's okay. But yeah, overall, this defense is in an extremely good spot. Up and down, back and forth, passing, rushing, everything that they need, they can do it all. They're in a very good spot, and it is the strength of this team. But I think that, if you look at the passing stats for this team last year, 3,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 picks. You tell me Ryan Fitzpatrick can't do that or better than that in a 17-game schedule? I absolutely think that he can. So, I think that this team has a reasonable shot to go back-to-back in this division, a very reasonable shot. So let's take a look at what I have projected for their record prediction in 2021. If you've seen all of the NFC East episodes, you obviously know that I've picked 10-7 for the Giants, Cowboys, and the football team. I think there's a very good possibility that they repeat for the first time since the 02-03 or 03-04, something like that, Philadelphia Eagles. There hasn't been a back-to-back champ in the NFC East since, 03-04, 02-03, I can't remember exactly, but almost 20 years. So, I don't particularly subscribe to that, mentality as far as stats like that are concerned. But when there's that much proof in the pudding, you got to kind of give it some credence, So I am thinking that the Cowboys win the division this year. That's who I have winning it. I have the football team second, Giants, Eagles. That's kind of how I projected with the low, high, my's. The low and the high as far as those teams are concerned. I think the Cowboys have the most potential at 12-5, then the Washington football team at 11-6. And then I think I picked the Giants high to be 11-6 as well, but they're low 7-10, something like that. Either way, 3.6 to 1 on your money for the football team to repeat. I think that's possible, very, very possible. But I unless their offensive line has progressed to being at least a top 15 unit, maybe more like top 10 unit in the league, I don't think they're going to quite get there. I do think that there's a very good potential that this is a playoff team this year. If they're on the low side, I'm not sure if they get there, but 10-7, they should be able to get into the playoffs. So let's break it down. Let's take a look at how they start the season at home against the LA Chargers. I think they can get that win at home. Week 1, fans back in the stands, should be a rocking stadium. The Chargers offense is very good, but the football team's defense is very, very good. The Chargers defense is not nearly as good as this team's is. So, I think they could squeak out a win there. It might not be a crazy high scoring game, even with Justin Herbert back there in that offense in LA, just because this defense is so good. So we'll see, but I'm giving the football team the edge there in week 1. At home against the Giants, I think they get that win. I'm going to go ahead and probably split it with the Cowboys and the Giants. I think there's potential that the football team sweeps the Giants. Just because their defense is a little better. I think the Giants defense is underrated, but I do think the football team's defense is better, and offenses are fairly comparable, but I think there's potential that the football team could sweep the Giants. But I'm going to go with the home and home, so they get the win, start 2-0. Then it gets a little bit tougher on the road against Buffalo. I think Buffalo's going to be able to get that win. They're just a very good team. They're a better team overall. Defense is better in Buffalo. Offense is very good, much better than the football team's offense, in my opinion. So I think that the Buffalo Bills get the win there. On the road against Atlanta, I think most teams beat Atlanta. I think the football team is a better team overall, for sure, than the Falcons. I think they get that win in Atlanta. At home against the Saints, I think they get that win. They're a better team. Again, better team overall, offensively and defensively, I think. I think they're better offensively, yeah. So there you go. At home against the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs aren't going to lose too many games. They're just too good of a team. I think the Chiefs can come into Washington and get that win. On the road against Green Bay, if for whatever reason I think Aaron Rodgers is on the Packers, but if for some reason Aaron Rodgers is not on the Packers, Washington gets that win for sure. If he is on the Packers, which I expect him to be, I think that the Packers can get that win at home. Tough game, and it could, low, high, my for sure, but I'm giving the Packers the edge there. On the road against the Denver Broncos, I think these teams are very, very comparable. I think the defense is very good for the Broncos, but I do give the football team an edge on defense. I think I give the football team an edge on offense as well, but it's in Denver. So that's a tough game on Halloween. Very tough game. Low, high, my. I expect the football team to get the win. They are the better team. That's a team that if you want to be a playoff team, you got to beat the Denver Broncos. If Drew Lock is the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, the football team has to beat them. You have to. That's a game that you kind of have to win. I don't care if it's on the road. Bye week 9, that's okay. It's not too early, not too late. It's right in the middle. Lukewarm porridge, if you know what I mean. So that's okay. Week 10 against the Buccaneers, tough game at home. I think the Bucs get that win though. They are the overall better team defensively, offensively. Maybe not defensively, it's close defensively, but they're a better offense. So I think the Bucs come in and get that win. At Carolina, that's another game just like the Broncos. If you want to be a playoff team, you got to beat the Panthers. I don't care if it's on the road. So I do think that they get that win. At home against Seattle, extreme west to extreme east. At home, I think they beat the Seattle Seahawks. If that were in Seattle, I would give Seattle a much better shot, and maybe they would win. It is a Monday night game. It is a primetime game, so Seattle has a better shot, but I just think defensively, the football team is way better than the Seattle Seahawks. And is Seattle going to be able to put up that many points? And their defense isn't that crazy good, so I think Washington's going to be able to score. At home, I'm giving the football team the edge. At the Vegas Raiders, I think that's another team. They're overall the better team. I don't care if it's in Las Vegas at that point in the season. If it were earlier in the season, much like, even Carolina or Denver or even Green Bay, if it were earlier in the season on the road, I'd maybe give them more of a shot, because I think early on, home teams are going to have a bit of an advantage. Fans are back in the stands. They're going to be crazy, that kind of thing. But, by week 13, I don't care if you're on the road. You got to beat the Vegas Raiders. That's that. So I'm giving them the win. I think they do win it, but you have to. At home against the Dallas Cowboys, I'll give them the split. They get that win there. I think they can absolutely sweep the Philadelphia Eagles. There's another team that last 5 games of their season are all divisional. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. Philly, it's their last 4 and 5 of their last 6. So that's a tough stretch. They beat Dallas at home, beat the Eagles on the road. They lose to Dallas in Dallas, so they go home and home. They beat Philadelphia again at home, and then they lose to the Giants. That's tough, man. That's really, really tough to finish out your season like that, especially in a tough, close, tight division like this. It'll be interesting. This is one of the toughest divisions for me to project. The NFC West and East are the 2 divisions that are the toughest for me to project, to be honest with you. I have the Rams winning that division and then the Cowboys winning this division. So we'll see. If in my opinion, it's going to come down to the offensive line. It really is for this team. There's not a lot of weaknesses. There's not a lot of holes. If there is one, it's linebackers on defense, which is not a concern realistically at all, and the offensive line on offense, which is a huge concern. So they need to progress. They need to be better. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's your breakdown for the 2021 Washington football team.